Hello there, YouTube. We are off this week, but I'm here anyway with what we here like to think of as exclusive bonus content. Though if you're the kind of viewer who only watches our show on YouTube, you probably know it as worse content. I'm doing this, though, because I wanted to talk about something important, namely one of the wilder things to happen to the Air Bud franchise, which is already a pretty bold thing to say about a franchise that's seen this happen.
T-minus 3 minutes to launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and blast off.
Even I'm lighter than a feather. How are we gonna get home this time?
Space Buddies.
Yeah, Space Buddies is actually a canonical sequel to Air Bud, which probably comes as quite a shock to anyone only familiar with the original. It'd be like finding out they made a fourth sequel to Kramer vs. Kramer, and it's Kong Skull Island. Wait, hold on. Did the boy in Kramer vs. Kramer grow up to be an adventurer? Is the boy Kong? I have so many questions. Now, believe it or not, we actually talked about Air Bud 3 years ago, and you might have missed that, or maybe you didn't miss it. Maybe you just saw a video titled Air Bud Last Week Tonight, saw that it was almost 15 minutes long, and decided to do literally anything else with your time because you suddenly remembered how many lives you had. Now, you don't have to go and watch that segment to understand what I'm about to say. I would certainly recommend it. But you don't have to do that. You also don't need to watch the original movie Air Bud, as I'll give you a brief recap of both right now. Very basically, Air Bud is about Josh, a kid whose dad eats it off screen, and who later finds a dog whom Josh steals from its original owner to recruit to his basketball team so they can win states because there ain't no rule against a dog playing basketball. After that triumph, the dog's original owner gets sent to jail for absolutely no reason, even though there are actually several rules against that happening, and that is essentially the plot of Air Bud, produced, by the way, by Harvey Weinstein, so yeah, that's fun. Now, in our piece, I successfully argued that Air Bud's stated allegiance to rule following was actually anything but that the movie's relationship to rules was inconsistent and unpredictable, that 9/11 was a bummer, and that there's too much kissing in movies. And I stand by every single point that I made in it. And you might think that I shouldn't have anything more to say about Air Bud, which is true. I shouldn't. And yet, it turns out I very much do. Because recently, the mastermind behind the Air Bud franchise released a video that I personally take issue with.
Hey, I'm Robert Vince, the producer and creator of the 14-movie Air Bud franchise. We introduced the world to an incredible golden retriever called Air Bud. He proved to the world that anything is possible.
OK, stop right there. Now, I should say right away, that isn't the part that I take issue with, although I do want to point out that it makes a lot of sense that this guy thought that a dog who could bounce a basketball was impressive enough to build a movie empire around, given that he handles the ball like he's afraid he will break it. Also, I want to say 3 small things before moving on to the big thing. First, 14 is just too many movies. It seems cosmically unjust to me that there are 14 Air Bud movies and still just 3 Bill and Ted's, 2 Freaky Fridays and 1 lonely Michael Clayton. Yeah, I'm just saying, they put buddies on the moon. Don't tell me they can't make a Michael Clayton Goes to France, Michael Clayton The College Years, or Michael Clayton Scared Stupids. They could, and they should. 2, far be it from me to air-splain the Air Bud franchise to the guy who created it, but the golden retriever in question was not actually called Air Bud. The movie is called that. The dog is called Buddy, or alternately Blue, by his original owner, an alcoholic clown currently serving a prison sentence for reasons never once explained. In fact, according to The Dog Could Definitely Ball, an oral history of Air Bud, the movie's director never even liked that title, believing it sounded less elegant than the movie he was trying to make, adding, I was saying we should call the movie Buddy because that was the dog's name, but there had just been a movie called Buddy with a chimpanzee or something, and look, we could debate the elegance of the title, or indeed the movie. We could even debate whether they should have gone with a much clearer title, like, not for nothing, The Dog Could Definitely Ball. But what we can't debate, what I won't debate, is that Robert Vince introduced America to a dog named Air Bud, because he did not do that. It would have been weird for Josh to name the random dog he's using to replace his father Air Bud. It's maybe the second weirdest name he could have gone with, right after Better Dad. The point is, Vince didn't introduce America to a dog named Air Bud any more than Spielberg introduced America to a shark named Jaws, or Pete Docter introduced America to a house named Up, or James Cameron introduced America to a blue alien named Avatar, because for the record, the names of the characters they introduced America to are, respectively, Buddy, Bruce the Shark, Houses Don't Have Names, and Truly Who Can Say. And finally, as for Vince's claim, Buddy the dog proved to the world that anything was possible, did he? Did he do that? Because I'd argue that the original Air Bud proved that one very good dog could, despite some obvious defensive weaknesses, play some rudimentary basketball, though I am duty-bound to remind you he did only score 4 field goals in his one game. Honestly, the main thing that's impressive isn't that they trained a dog to bite a ball into a basket. It's that someone managed to milk that single dumb trick into, again, a 14-film franchise. Anyway, these are my thoughts so far on the, and this is true, first 11 seconds of that video. Luckily, we're about to get to the point.
Now we're bringing Buddy back to the big screen with an all-new movie called Air Bud Returns.
OK, now that is right. Air Bud Returns is going to be the 15th movie in the Air Bud franchise. And apparently, it's going to be a more grounded return to its basketball roots, while crucially deviating from the original's formula in a pretty meaningful way, because according to the actual press release, Air Bud Returns centres on a 12-year-old boy who's always dreamt of being a star basketball player, check. And after the passing of his father, his dad eats it too, double check. He finds, you'll never guess, a stray golden retriever he names Buddy Checkosaurus. But wait, because I'm not done. He also apparently discovers an original VHS of the Air Bud movie in his dead-as-hell father's belongings, which, I'm sorry, what? What? Look, I can get behind the Air Bud franchise reaching the heights of space. I can even get behind the basketball dog saving Christmas twice, by the way. But what I cannot do is wrap my brain around an Air Bud that takes place in a universe that also has Air Buds the movie. Which is to say, nothing of the reality-straining suggestion that someone would hang on to a VHS tape until 2025. I'm supposed to believe that the kid's dad dies and he comes across both a basketball dog and a movie about a kid with a dead dad who befriends a basketball dog, and that kid doesn't then freak the fuck out? No, instead he says, oh, maybe I'll play basketball like the kid in this movie whose life weirdly matches my own almost perfectly. And the craziest thing of all is we are still not at the main thing that I have an issue with here. So let's once again pick up that announcement where we left off.
Today we have big news. For the first time ever, we're opening up the auditions for the next Air Bud.
No way.
Let me introduce you to lead animal trainer Mark Forbes.
We're launching a nationwide search for our final star. We need a dog who is a purebred golden retriever, who's athletic, and ideally, he would love basketball, just like the original Air Bud.
I'm sorry, you don't have the dog yet? You are trying to crowdsource the dog? In the words of Josh's dad from the original Air Bud, I think I'm in hell, because this is completely insane. In fact, it is so insane, I don't even have time to register the weirdness of announcing your dog search, while the most Air Bud-looking dog I've ever seen is sitting right next to you. It's like a casting director making a video asking for a Timothée Chalamet type while standing next to a well-trained but heartbroken Finn Wolfhard. It is a fucking insult. But regardless, announcing you're making another Air Bud movie when you don't have a dog on standby that can play basketball is audacious. It's akin to proudly announcing you're making a season of White Lotus without a beautiful location secured, or a Fast and Furious movie without access to any cars, or a Tom Hardy movie without a weird little voice for him to do. Those are the key things everyone's expecting from you. So Air Bud Returns isn't anything without a dog who can play basketball. Without that, your idea is basically just movie. And what's worse is Robert Vince even then has the gall to try and turn this deficiency into an inspirational speech at the end of the video.
This is your chance to be part of the Air Bud legacy.
Ain't no rules that the dog can't play basketball.
When you get the chance, you always take the shot.
Listen. You can dress it up with soaring music and misleading cutaways suggesting you can play basketball when you can't. After all, that is most, if crucially not all, of the formula for Air Bud. But at a certain point, you really do need a dog who can shoot a basketball. And look, there is no shame in not having one. Most people don't. I'd argue it's the single largest roadblock keeping people from making dog-playing basketball movies. The reason no one made Air Bud movies before the movie Air Bud was because no one had an Air Bud until somebody did, and that is when they made an Air Bud movie. And it's not like you can just make another Buddy the dog out of thin air, although, honestly, if you cared enough, you actually could. The dog's original owner apparently froze 11 vials of the original Buddy's semen, meaning, and I quote, there are still a couple vials of Air Bud cum left, stored in a freezer at the International Canine Semen Bank, which is just an all-time sentence in the English language. I'm not even going to stop down to discuss that apparently we went from 11 vials to a couple, even though I have a number of questions about that. Because look, as galling as it is that they are crowdsourcing the single most important part of their basketball dog movie, I will say not everyone seemed to have an issue with it. In fact, many people sent in audition tapes. And the reason I know that is Robert Vince actually released a follow-up video in which he updates us on the search, complete with even more poor basketball handling on his part.
Hi, I'm Robert Vince, the producer and director of Air Bud Returns. I've just watched over 100 selects for the search for the next Air Bud. When we embarked on this campaign, we could never have imagined this kind of response. Over 4,000 of you have provided videos of your amazing golden retrievers. I was blown away by the talent. I laughed a lot. It was so heartwarming to see the bond that you shared with your buddy. Now, we'll be moving on to the next phase of casting, the callbacks.
Okay. I've just got to ask, is this a money laundering scheme? Because I'm now going to say something that might be somewhat controversial. I don't believe that the man who doesn't have a golden retriever or an ability to handle a basketball like a human being should be in charge of a decade-spanning franchise about a dog that plays basketball. I don't even think he wants to be. The only thing less convincing than his basketball skills is when he said, I laughed a lot, like he was trying to assure his loved ones that everything was fine in a hostage video. Air Bud Enterprises is treating me very well. I'm learning so much about dogs, about basketball. Please send a dog that plays basketball so I can come home and tell you all about how much fun I had. And please remember, no cops. The team behind this movie apparently narrowed it down to 30 dogs, posting photos of them on Air Bud's official Instagram account, the bio of which, by the way, reads, ain't no rule that says a dog can't Instagram, which, credit where it's due, is actually true. Plenty of dogs have Instagrams, whether that's Doug the Pug, or Brody the Golden Doodle, whose thing is that he's fucking massive, or Marnie the dog, a wildly popular Shih Tzu with the most clinically adorable head tilt and tongue, who used to post in fun locations or outfits until her owner started almost exclusively using the account to vehemently oppose genocide and support Palestine, calling out high-profile celebrities in posts like this one with Anderson Cooper and Kelly Ripa captioned, shame on those who dared to hold Marnie only to have hands dripping in blood. Or this one with Selena Gomez that reads, sorry to Marnie for being held in the arms of genocide enablers disguised as animal lovers. It is a pretty abrupt change of tone from the dog who used to post irreverent things like, got you a pumpkin. And if you are wondering, how can Marnie, the adorable influencer dog, get away with such an aggressive tonal shift? Well, two reasons. One, she's dead, rest in peace. And two, we looked it up, and it turns out there ain't no rule says a dog's got to support genocide. The point is, Air Bud Entertainment's Instagram introduced the top 30 contenders for the Air Bud role, and there were a lot of great options. There was Wong Wong, Oro, Ralph, and Maverick. There was also Donut, Clyde, and a second Maverick. There was the dashing Gilligan, Murphy, the lovely Nina Ricci, or Duncan, or Maple, or even a third Maverick. And listen, no one is saying these aren't great dogs. They're all good, generational talent dogs, and I'm sure anyone would make a great Air Bud, except in Clyde, for obvious reasons. But it turned out none of them will, because they've since narrowed it down to these four: Charlie, Summer, Leo, and Willard. And then they made this big announcement.
Hi, I'm Robert Vince, the director of Air Bud Returns, and I'm here with Mark Forbes, lead animal trainer. The search for the next Air Bud has been incredible. We couldn't just choose one. The two winners, they are Summer from San Diego
And Charlie from Ohio.
Congratulations.
Okay, I mean, yes, congratulations to those dogs, but I think there is an obvious problem here, and I'm just going to say out loud what I think all of us are thinking right now, including one commenter on that video who wrote simply, "Those two dogs do not look alike." It's a comment that we were lucky to have screen grabbed, since comments on that video have since been disabled. And look, I am not mad at these dogs. I'm not mad about the Air Bud franchise coming back. I'm not even mad about the open dog search in general. I lied earlier when I pretended to be mad about that. I've never been mad about anything in my life. I'm not mad right now. I'm happy. My only issue is that I didn't get a chance to audition. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, John, you could never audition for Air Bud Returns. You are offer only. And that is sweet of you to say. I most certainly should be. And that is one of the reasons I couldn't audition. Another being that the contest is clearly over. They picked two dogs that don't look remotely like each other to pretend to be one dog. And a third being their casting call was explicitly a request for dogs. And I am going to mean this strictly in the clinical sense, all man.
100% all man.
Though, you know what? To get ahead of that last issue, while I know I'm not a dog, and I do know that, it does feel relevant to ask, so what? So what if I'm a man? After all, there ain't no rule that says a man can't try out for Air Bud. Am I right? Am I right? Are you all with me? Are you with me? Well, here's the thing. You should know, I'm not actually right. I'm not actually right. I can't audition because there were, in fact, explicit rules saying that all applicants needed to be purebred golden retrievers. You heard them say it. It was in the video. So, yeah. It seems my dreams of being saved by a referee with a tiny book of rules coming to my rescue have died. My dreams are completely dead. Just like Josh's dad, the original Buddy, Marnie, the relentless human rights defender, and this is true, 5 puppies from Snow Buddies. More, I'm sure, but reportedly 5. But then you know what? Something occurred to me. Because I realised that while there is technically a rule against me auditioning for Air Bud Returns, rules are, in many ways, for fools. Was it not, after all, the original Air Bud itself that taught us that while some rules matter and must be enforced, others, like those that determine who gets to keep Buddy and who gets carted to jail, can be completely discarded and ignored in favour of what feels right? Well, I ask you this. Doesn't me auditioning for the role of Buddy, a character that doesn't speak and can only sort of play basketball, feel kind of right? And isn't letting me audition much more in keeping with the spirit of the law, if not the letter? And isn't that, at the end of the day, what deep down Air Bud is really all about? The argument here is on my side, and I'm dead serious about auditioning. So at this point, I guess I would argue that the ball is in Robert Vince's court, except honestly, I don't think it is. I think it's actually in mine. So please, come with me once again. Because all I'm asking is, give me a shot, Robert Vince. Because I know I may not be able to play basketball, but let's remember here, neither can you. And neither could the original Buddy, for the final time, 4 field goals in one game after, according to the oral history of your movie, dozens and dozens of takes. I can do that. So let's make a deal. If I sink this shot right now, you must consider me for the sort of titular role in Air Bud Returns. Why? Because there ain't no fucking rule against it. Your move, Robert Vince. Thanks so much for watching. We're back October 26th. Goodbye. Hit me with that rock. Buckets.